Hey, it's Tom Llewellyn, and a little bit about education. And let's go back just a step for a second. We talked about performance-based government that actually provides value, and reducing the amount of money is kind of two cultural issues. And how do you fix those? We talk about the biggest financial issue, and in our retirement system and how upside down it is. Well, education is another one of those problems. It's a social problem that has its tentacles into all kinds of great success stories if you can give a child an education. But here's what's happened. So over the last 60 years, since the federal government decided to add a layer to the education system and the unions got involved, our education system is pretty much flatlined in terms of the number of students that it gets to proficiency in key subjects: math, science, reading, writing, civics. Those key things that most universities go, well, now, if you're good in these areas, we'd like you to come to the university. But in the 21st century, they're also the key areas for, once you get out of high school and you're proficient in these things, you could go to college, you could go to technical school, you could just be a much more intelligent worker in this new knowledge economy, this new technology economy. And it's like, if you don't have those things, we think the digital divide is, well, you know how to use a computer. That's a bunch of crap. The digital divide is, do you have enough tools, human capital tools from education, so you can thrive in an environment where if your industry goes away after 5 years because change is happening so quick, you can learn a whole new industry. You don't have to hope that there's going to be a program that's going to feed you money, because nobody ever taught you how to be a really smart 21st century worker, right? So what's the problem with our education system? Why isn't it teaching our kids, 2/3 of our kids, actually more like 3/4 of our kids, to do these things? And the problem is we have a one-size-fits-all system where probably in excess of 90% of our kids go to a socialist education system. And again, socialism defined, if you own the means of production, right, which is the employees and the schools and whatever, it's a socialist endeavor. Good, bad, or indifferent, they could be doing better, but they're not. And they're not because they're stuck in the one-size, top-down, pessimistic attitude about education. It's kind of, we're going to do it this way, and if you don't like it, it's too bad. And that's a problem. It's called education inequality. For all you social justice warriors that think that income inequality is the problem in this world, it's an interesting measure, but it's really not the most important one. So when you look at it, the human capital disequities or inequities are caused by education. And the education inequality, and that is, you got the suburbs, people that have means, have a lot of pocket cash, right, to decide where they want their kids to go to school. They have choices all over the place. Public school happens to be good, they'll send them there. If not, a whole bunch of other choices, good or probably better. That competition, though, also makes that public school better. You go into the inner city, not happening. There are 8,000 failing schools in the United States. Very large percentage are in inner cities, lots in the rural areas. There's another 65,000 non-performing schools or underperforming schools. And it's like, if your kids get into one of those, they're going to get an inadequate education, and they're going to get bumped out of the system at a lower capacity in human capital than they should. And that ain't going to work anymore, right? So, the jobs for people that are inadequately educated are drying up. Just like farm jobs dried up in the 20th century, 90% of workers in the early 1800s were farmers. Well, by the 1900s, industrialization was taking over, and it sucked up a whole bunch of jobs, because guess what? Agriculture was automating, doing a whole bunch of smart stuff. You needed less people. There were better jobs in the city anyway. People were coming. The same things happened in the 21st century. You're going to see a whole bunch of jobs disappear, for especially non-skilled jobs, in favor of highly skilled jobs. And the more highly skilled people you have, the more people America will employ at higher wages, right? So we've got to fix this thing. And it's like, should we pass a constitutional amendment to absolutely mandate that children get them, that gives parents the right to, sue districts, or at least provide choices, something? That's one way. Another way might be education enterprise zones, something Civil is sponsoring. That is, if you have a group of parents and you want a different alternative than your school, you can petition the government, either the state one if they're in the mood, or the federal government, to solicit bids from highly successful schools, whether they're charter or private or whatever, so that they can get their kids into a school that can make their children successful every single year of their education. Because you have one bad year, I mean, you can ruin a kid's life, right? If you have a series of them, yeah, it's a mess, right? So anyway, we've got to do something. We're recommending education enterprise zones. If you have an idea, let me know. Next week, we'll talk about immigration. Thanks.